growing company. It was getting larger. That was a shift in culture. When do you sell? When does that happen? And then the question, which I'm sure you ask your clients all the time, is how much is enough?
You do get to a point where there is no new thing. Once that ascension stops, the boredom sets in.
Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Doug Hudson.
I'm Scott Wood.
And if you're watching, listening to us, welcome. And big welcome to our guest, Russell Moon. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I like your outfit. Nice shorts and t-shirt. Why he and I are all dressed up. And
he's dressed for 100 and whatever, 7-degree day or whatever it's going to be outside.
No, you said it earlier. He's dressed.
Because he's retired.
Because he sold a business. He exited well.
That's right.
It was a promise I made to myself. I would never wear a tie again. And I've held that promise.
Russell, you've done a lot of things, and you did a lot of it pretty early. You're intimately aware of the challenges of entrepreneurship and navigating the sale of a business, because in 2005, you sold Skinceuticals, a skincare product line, to L'Oreal. You went on to found Perio Sciences in 2010, developing groundbreaking oral care products and disrupting the conglomerate heavy oral health industry. Certainly near and dear to, I know, my family's 2014, you launched Tooth and Tail, offering easy-to-use, breath-freshening oral hygiene for products for dogs and cats. We're going to jump in, a big topic with you, exiting and retiring young, whatever that may. So, Russell, thanks for making time to be with us.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Where are you from?
Originally from Nashville, and I came to Dallas in '86. I attended SMU, and I've been here ever since. So I guess I ought to say I'm a Dallasite at this point.
Man, your town is blowing up, though. Nashville is quite all the rage now.
Do you still have family in Nashville?
I do. Well, actually, they're in a little town called Franklin, which is just south of Nashville. Yeah. But Nashville is going crazy right now.
You don't recognize it probably.
Most of the people downtown in Nashville aren't from Nashville.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I mean, I've spent a little bit of time there with some of the publishing work that I did, but Franklin is blowing. I mean, obviously when a town like Nashville blows up, everything around it kind of goes with it. So, do you have siblings or? I have
a sister, and she's in downtown Nashville right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a therapist. And living a great life.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So school, everything there. Did you graduate high school from there?
Actually, no. I moved around a bit. Parents were divorced, and so I went from Nashville to small town Kentucky, to a town called Glasgow, Kentucky.
No way.
And then my dad moved overseas, so from there I went to Singapore. And then back to Glasgow, Kentucky for graduation.
Man, we got a lot to dig in here. So you're living with your dad most of the time and traveling, living some with your mom and with your dad?
It was about 50-50. Yeah. So 7th and 8th grade, I lived in Bangkok. Talk about culture shock. Went from Bangkok in 7th and 8th grade to small town Kentucky in 9th grade, and then to Singapore sophomore year, and then back to small town Kentucky for junior, senior.
You know, Scott and I, we had a conversation today. Like 7th grade, maybe 6th, maybe 8th. It's like the worst year for everybody. I mean, adolescence, right? Your eyes are like open to all this stuff. And he and I had shared some stories. You're doing that in Bangkok. So what's a core memory from that? What's maybe a really kind of a difficult one, or maybe like a really happy? What are some core memories from the early years?
The memories are primarily around culture, as you might imagine. I mean, just the way people traveled around, didn't speak the language. It was, a Buddhist country. So the things that I saw every day were just, completely foreign. Yeah. But some of the more enjoyable memories were some of the festivals. There's a festival called the Loy Krathong Festival, where a little floating, I don't even know what made them float, but they had candles on them, and they would send these things out into a lake, and there were like hundreds of thousands of them. We went to a elephant soccer game where the elephants were playing soccer.
Didn't.
Yeah, just stuff like that you can't make up.
And they all have jerseys on?
No, the riders did, but not the elephants.
Incredible.
Yeah. So
You remember any of the team's names?
No.
Yeah.
No. That was a long time ago.
How many goals do they score in a game?
I think they scored a few, if I remember
No
correctly.
way.
Yeah, the Elephants could kick the ball pretty good, and they'd get running.
So
and
is
going.
the goalie like a person, like a jockey on a horse on an elephant? Is that?
I don't think there was a goalie. I think that the
Okay.
goal was just to run up and
The
down.
goal is open.
Yeah.
Open goal.
Let's
I am
let's keep it
YouTubing this
limited.
after. I'm YouTubing this later.
Yep. True story. And when I was there, which I have to do the math, I think it was like 74 to 76. Chiang Mai was a really, really small town, and I understand now it's absolutely
Interesting.
blown up. But one of the scariest memories was we were in Chiang Mai and decided to take a walk behind our hotel, which was, to some degree jungle. I mean, the grass was maybe 6 feet high. We walked out. We see some deer prints, and my dad smells like this cat pee smell and kind of gets a sixth sense that maybe we should go back. We turn around and go back, and we see these big, what were most likely tiger paw prints. Mm-hmm. And so we theorized that we had just kind of walked between him and his dinner, and it was my sister was in 4th, 5th grade. She was small. She would have been a snack. So,
Wow.
Once we got back to the hotel, he kind of laid it out what he thought happened to us, and that was
Jungle
scary.
is the tiger's house. I'm going to stay here on dry land, so to speak.
What was your dad's business? What took him overseas?
He was an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, he was working with American oil companies in the Gulf of Siam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so obviously the international, that's when you and your sister are living with your dad. Obviously back in Kentucky, that would be with your mom.
Yep.
Yep. I gotta believe, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but did that help bring you into the cosmetics business potentially? Any of that overseas or?
No, absolutely not.
Not related to
it. The way that we started the cosmetics business was actually a really funny offbeat story. After I graduated from SMU, I was working in the mortgage business. This was in the early 90s, and rates were on their way down. And so there was a government program called the FHA Streamline Program, which allowed borrowers to essentially get a 0.5 point higher rate and not pay any closing costs. And it was a very simple program. And so a young person out of college was able to do it, and I started doing it. Worked for a company, and after about a year, I was like, you know what, I could probably do this on my own. So I started doing it on my own, started advertising in the Dallas Morning News, and we started getting a lot of calls and a lot of customers. So I recruited some of my friends who were just graduating at the time, and one of the fellas' names was Alden Pinnell, and he was a fraternity member of mine, and he had graduated, and I hired a few other friends, and so this business was going great. In the summer of 94, really in the spring of 94, interest rates started going up, and that business, it dried up instantly. If there's not, a rate delta, then it just didn't work. So we had made a little bit of money. I mean, we were in our early 20s at this point. And so we
back me up real quick. What is the business? What are you selling, or what was serving?
We were refinancing homes that were backed by the FHA under a program called the Streamline Program was the name of it.
But essentially, you're learning marketing and advertising and selling at that point. That's what you're really learning, maybe?
Well, we were learning that if you put an ad in the Dallas Morning News, that people would call, and we had a service to sell.
Yeah, and so if you had somebody decent on the phone answering the phone, you could sell something.
Yeah, it was working, and so it was literally one of these things where we had no clue what we were doing. We said, let's try it. It worked. The phones lit up. We were like, well, let's do it again, and we did that until interest rates went up and the business stopped. So with a bit of money in our pocket and some friends who had been overseas, and they were in Czechoslovakia actually, and they were talking to us about how entrepreneurship over there was really starting to blossom. as a young person with no fear, we came up with the idea that we were going to move to Czechoslovakia.
This is so interesting.
It's a true story.
I know it is. But again, you're not super afraid of international travel because you have been, by this point, overseas 4, 6, 8 years, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'd say like in April, May, we crafted this idea. This is 1994, that about 6 of us were going to move to Czechoslovakia, rent a house, and figure out a business. And we had no idea what business we were going to figure out, but that's what the plan was. So I sold
in Czechoslovakia because someone had told you that there's this entrepreneurial thing
Correct.
going on there.
Correct.
And
We
you
had
were
some
just
friends who had lived in Prague.
Okay.
And they came back and they were like, you guys won't believe what's going on over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, not San Fran or some other, it's Czechoslovakia.
Right.
yeah, I think, communism had been booted out maybe in the late 80s, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was fairly new to capitalism. And so there was opportunity.
Yep.
And
Yes.
so
Yep.
we thought, all right, we can go do this. So got out of my apartment, sold my car, as did the other folks that were going to go over. So I went on a road trip that summer. And what I didn't know what was going on was Alden Pinnell, who was working with me, was going up to Duke and going up to Toronto. His father was the chief of dermatology at Duke University.
Okay.
There was a company in Toronto that was making a skincare product that used Dr. Pinnell's patent. And they called Dr. Pinnell, this group in Canada, and said, hey, will you consult for us? Will you work with us? Will you help us? So he went up there, talked to him, said, yeah, but I'd like to get my son involved, Alden. Can he, they want to create a business. They think they're going to Czechoslovakia. I'd rather, let's see if we can do something here in the U.S. So Alden went to Toronto and met with these people, and he went to Duke, and they had worked out an arrangement where we could sell these products in Dallas. So I think it was like June or July. I called Alden and I was like, hey man, we're leaving in about 6 weeks. Let's talk about last minute plans. And he's like, I've got to tell you something. I was like, what? He's like, I'm not going. And at that point I was like, what do you mean?
We're
what do you mean
committed.
you're not
Yeah,
going?
we're pot committed. Yeah. This.
I'm like, I don't even know where to live. What are you talking about? He goes, just suspend your disbelief for a minute and let me tell you what I've been doing. And he's like, I want you to go to Toronto with me and meet these people. They've got this skincare product. It looks like it, is under my dad's patent. I think this could be a good idea. And I was just like, I'm going to have to call you later. This is a crazy
Yeah, I got to get
Complete
over
left turn.
Yeah, I got to get over the shock first.
So fast forward a few weeks, I get back to Dallas. And so I think we first went to Duke, and Dr. Pinnell has since passed, but he was absolutely a brilliant scientist, collagen chemist. And he had the patent on, if you've heard of vitamin C in skincare, this was his patent.
Wow.
He was the guy.
Wow.
So first went to Duke, and then we went to Toronto and talked to the group that had made the very first liquid vitamin C for skin.
Wow.
And it was a funny meeting because Alden and I were there, and we're writing on the plane all the questions we could possibly think of, like, will you help us with advertising? Will you give us terms? What else should we ask for? I don't know. We made this whole list. So we sit down with them and we go through this whole list of questions, and they're looking at us and we're like, will you guys give us terms? And they're like, no. Well, what about help with advertising? No. Everything was no. We were like, well, what will you do? They're like, we'll sell you how many ever bottles you want at this price.
Keep it simple.
We were like, okay, we'll take 100 bottles. And so we packed up a duffel bag. I mean, true story, put it into our luggage and fly back to Dallas.
No way.
He had gotten an apartment.
These are like 100 small bottles, or these
Yeah,
are
it's
just little
it's kind of an iconic bottle now, but it was a brown amber bottle. It's 30 milliliters with a little dropper on top.
Yep.
This was that bottle hadn't even, been out there.
So even the
before
form
this.
factor was innovative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we brought these bottles back to Dallas, and he had gotten an apartment. We line them up on his desk at his apartment, and I'm like, well, I need somewhere to stay, and so he lets me sleep on a futon in his living room. And we're just looking at these bottles like, what in the heck are we gonna do?
What'd you pay per bottle?
Oh, I can't even remember at this point. It was probably like $15 or $20, and we were selling them for $37.50 or something like that. I don't remember the
How old are
economics.
y'all?
So I think I'm 24, 25, and he's 22, 23.
So there were 6. How many people were going to Czechoslovakia?
There were about 6 of us.
So did the other 4 go?
No one
That
went.
trip never. That project never
That
happened.
never happened. The people that were in Dallas ended up working with us at the company. Yep. Yeah. So Dr. Pinnell had the ability to get on TV and create media. So kind of fast forward a few months, we had been out talking to a few dermatologists. We were starting to promote this concept of putting vitamin C on your skin. And there was a doctor in Nashville, believe it or not, named Mel Elson. And Dr. Elson was a student of Dr. Pinnell's at Duke, and now he was in private practice. And he had developed the idea of putting topical vitamin K on your skin. And he had a whole PR agency, and his PR agency had gotten him a spot on Good Morning America. And so he called us, and he's like, Russell, I've got a spot on Good Morning America, but I can't hold the whole segment. They want to do this segment on vitamins for the skin. Will you guys send me some materials and talk about your vitamin C stuff?
Do you still have only 100 bottles at this point?
I think we had started
had
to
multiple
hand
cycles
those
at this
out. Yeah, I
point,
think we had gone through a turn of inventory at least once or twice.
Yeah.
And so we sent them all of our materials, and one particular bit of materials, and keep in mind, we're just a distributor at this point.
Yeah.
The group in Canada had supposedly put the vitamin C on half of a gentleman's face. And I mean, to this day, I don't know if it was all the vitamin C or if he had cosmetic surgery or stroke, but there were plastic surgeons that went and examined him. There were dermatologists that went and examined him. And they said they couldn't find anything other than probably this topically applied vitamin C. The changes were astounding.
Wow.
I mean, the picture was like half of his face looked 10 years younger than the other.
He was your poster child for the product moving forward,
literally,
or at least for a season.
Our poster senior.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was. And so Good Morning America started their segment. They talked for about 20 seconds about Dr. Elson's vitamin K cream, and then they turned to the vitamin C, and they got a hold of this picture.
Yep.
And at the bottom of the picture, it had our distribution company and the telephone number. This is pre-internet. There are no .coms at this point.
Yes.
And they held that up for probably 15 seconds. And at TV time,
It's a long time.
That's an eternity.
Yeah.
So they're talking in the background while they're holding up this picture. And that's enough time for people to copy down our numbers. So we, at that point, had a 6-line phone system. And that thing lit up literally for the next 2 weeks. And we were sending out orders COD. I mean, this is pre-internet. We were like handwriting orders, and then people would mail us checks. I mean, it was unbelievable when I think about today's world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what we did back then.
And so had you branded at that point Skinceuticals?
No,
Okay.
we had not. So at that point in time, there was
You were just taking the Canadian company,
the
raw
company,
material, basically.
No, their product.
Yeah, their product. You're just a distributor at that
their
point.
Their product, their brand. Where the story gets a little complicated is there was a biotech company that's publicly traded now that had licensed a lot of patents from Duke in a package. And one of those patents was Dr. Pinnell's vitamin C patent. So the biotech company, so think about Silicon Valley, big biotech meets
Russell and Kenny.
Well, small Canadian,
right,
group, right, with
Right.
Russell and Alden kind of down here just selling. In the beginning, the biotech group and the Canadian group were saying they were getting along.
Yep.
But after
there was a fight brewing.
That's exactly right. So after we started selling and there was some money being made,
Yep.
the fireworks went off. So this was about 2.5 years into it.
Okay.
And that's when the agreements blew up, everything blew up. There were lawsuits every which direction. And at that point, what we decided to do was forego the brand name that we had been building because we were a distribution company. And so we decided to take a license under the Duke patent, obviously, because of Alden's father. That was his patent.
Yep.
But what that meant was we had to rebrand.
Yeah.
And so it was in 1997, if I remember correctly, and we rebranded to Skinceuticals.
How'd you come up with the name?
This particular point in time for us, so let's see, that was 97 we started, so I'm maybe 27 by this point. We're Alden 25, give or take. We're very young, and there are lawsuits now flying around.
Yeah.
And we are about to go to the American Academy of Dermatology meeting, and we don't have a name. And I mean, it's about as intense
you're under the gun
as
to
we
figure
can
it
get.
out. Yeah.
So I do recall a meeting. I think we were out in Snowmass, and we were all, putting ideas down on the table, and arguing over, like, patience was running thin, and we're arguing over names, and I can't even remember all the different names that we threw out there. But through that process, which was in a pressure cooker, that name, Skinceuticals, was the one that rose to the top.
Yeah, it was a great name too.
It's an incredible name. Okay. There's obviously so much storytelling and content that we can get into. I'm a business owner watching, listening. What are 1, 2, or 3 takeaways that you could give that person just on the Skinceuticals exit? Why did you decide to sell? What were some of the decision points that you and Alden, I guess, are you all primarily the decision makers in the selling, exiting process?
Alden, Dr. Pinnell, and myself.
Okay, so the 3.
Yep. Correct.
Yep. Did you all agree? Did you fight about it? Walk us through that. What was that, a 3-month process? Was that an 18-month? What was that exiting process length? And give us some highlights and maybe some struggles through that.
Well, I think every entrepreneur who has a business that's growing, both in dollar amount and in people, can relate to what I'm about to say. When we were in the gritty phase and traveling and doing trade shows ourselves and, packing boxes ourselves, we built relationship with everybody that we were working with. And while we worked late hours and, worried about making budget each month, we were having fun. At about, 80 people-ish.
And roughly millions in sales, how much?
Oh, I'd say, 25 at that point.
Okay. 25 million-ish in gross sales, 80 people.
80 to, somewhere between 80 and 100 people.
It's more than 10.
We kind of lost the small company feel. Some things started happening. I didn't know every person's name, like, off the top of my head. Things that Alden and I would talk about as, 20-somethings and goofing around, we now had to kind of watch what we say in public, and, we were in the paper a bit. And so the dynamic of the company just started changing. It was a growing company. It was getting larger. And for us, that was a shift in culture, for sure. And there were aspects of that we liked, and there were aspects of that we didn't like.
And you guys you're 30 at this point?
Oh, no,
roughly?
no. Okay, so if we're right about selling, I was 37.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So right before we sold, the company, I think, was on pace to do about 35, 40 million, something like that.
Yep.
And I can't remember how many people, maybe up to 120, 130. It's been a few years. But, you know, that's a very different company than 8 of us working in, you know, it started in Deep Ellum, you know, going out at night after packing
100%.
boxes and sending out CODs, and it had evolved, and we were very thankful for that. But it was a very, very different environment. So we started noticing that, and that was one of the things that made us start thinking, you know, when do you sell? When does that happen?
And was it because the complexity just made it not fun? Or like what was sort of the underneath that caused you guys to
I think
versus saying, you know what, we're going to grow this thing to the moon.
100%. Was it skill sets? Yeah. Well, is it interesting what triggered for you all, this could be it?
I didn't know the answer at the time.
Yeah.
But with the power of hindsight, I think I do now. I think personally, I can't answer this for Alden, but where I enjoy spending my time is in the chaos of the early days, making order out of chaos.
Yeah.
As the company got bigger, we had a whole layer of management.
Yeah.
And it was more blocking and tackling. It was the routine was, and we knew what it was going to be each day. And to me, that didn't excite me personally. When I'm picking up the phone and I'm doing a PR call, and then the next minute I'm talking accounting, and then we're talking about something digital at my current company, maybe I'm just ADD, I don't know, but I like that environment.
Yeah. You might be obviously you love the chaos, that startup, that energy. So then how...
Would you say that you got bored a little bit?
I was excited by the growth.
Right.
But I was a bit bored by the challenge in front of us, because what was in front of us was go get more dermatology offices, go get more med spas.
More the same.
Hire more salespeople. We know what the model is. We know what the comp plan is. Like it was all built out.
Correct. You had to just replicate.
Right.
And that was not interesting to you at all.
For me personally, no. That's not my skill set. That's not what I'm drawn to.
Yeah. So how do you and Alden go from, you're starting to realize that, did you all pursue a sale, or were you pursued?
Yeah. So I don't think we had really taken it seriously at that point. I mean, we were still fairly young, and this was our first, you know, big company, and we had no clue what an exit value would be. No one had sat down to us and said, well, look, here's how this worked. And so we got a letter from a company. It was actually a company called Steiner Leisure that at the time ran a lot of spas on cruise ships. And then they had some land-based spas as well. And they sent us an unsolicited offer, and they put a number in their letter. And we read that letter. We were like, whoa.
Is this real?
Really? We should call these guys.
What was the number?
The number was, I think if I remember correctly, it was 100 million.
Wow.
Enough to get you and Alden to look at each other.
Oh yeah. I was like, is this a joke?
Yeah.
Like, somebody got the camera rolling. So that's what really made us take the process seriously.
Yep.
And it wasn't too long after that we engaged with Houlihan Lokey, a local group here in town, and started having serious conversations. And I think it was, May of 2005 is when we sold. So it may have been the fall, American Academy of Dermatology. I think someone from L'Oreal said, I've heard a rumor that you guys might be for sale, and if you are, we're very interested. And ultimately, they were the buyer.
Yeah.
And we went through the full process, though.
So they had to compete just like everybody else.
Yeah, and we had multiple groups competing.
Yeah.
That we were really thankful for that.
Did Houlihan Lokey walk you through that whole process with L'Oreal and everything? So you stayed the course and walked through that process?
Yeah, we kept running the business.
Yep.
And we built the book, we sent out the teasers, we did the follow-up calls, we made, I can't remember how many presentations, but we made a lot of presentations. We had multiple people in the data room, deep diligence, and then negotiated, I think it was 2 groups that we ended up negotiating kind of all the way out. L'Oreal was one.
So, great business, it's going well. You're getting a little bit bored, with kind of the mundane nature of things. It's starting to get repetitive. But you guys are, mid to late 30s. And I mean, you could grow the revenue to 200 million or 500 million or, whatever. And that wasn't interesting. I mean, that prospect I think was interesting. I'm not sure we knew how to go from 35, 40 million to 200, 250. So when you and I've talked before, Russell, one of the things I think you said was we weren't clear about what the next phase was going to look like. I think if I remember correctly, maybe not, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it was kind of like, we knew how to get to where we were. You could probably see a little bit further than where you were, but you weren't sure, how to scale it all the way up.
That is a really interesting question. Do you and Alden and Dr. Pinnell remember thinking we're not sure how to take it to the second or third or fourth level? Go back. Because I think for every business owner, because obviously, Russell, part of that would be incredibly humble and wise in a sense to go, guys, we're not even sure how we got here, much less know how to get there. That could be a great time to either exit or realize you've got to go get talent that you don't have currently in the room.
Yeah.
And it's at the same time, we're talking about life-changing money, right?
Correct.
So you're aware of the economics because you've gotten the letter from the company.
Right. That factors in a lot where you're going, okay.
Yeah, it starts to be a bird in the hand.
This could change my life.
Yes.
And then this was now 2005. So the skincare market was maturing and there were competitors coming in constantly.
Yeah.
And doctors were now making their own brands. So there was a lot of competition.
100%.
Always concerned about what could the FDA do. That's always in the backdrop. So that was always out there. So there were unknown factors that when you do have that bird in the hand, it takes a very tough poker player to keep going. I mean, and then the question, which I'm sure you ask your clients all the time, is how much is enough?
Right.
Did we consciously say, I have no idea how to get to 250 million? I don't recall. I do think with the power of hindsight, we would have needed an equity firm to come in who had done that next scale up step. None of us obviously had done that.
Right, exactly.
And quite frankly, we were, we worked hard, but we were also lucky to get where we got. And so I think the combination of all those forces, we were like, wow, this is the right decision.
So all three of you were aligned. And was that was that a difficult alignment, or is
no? And I don't regret it. I think I'd make that decision again because that brand has blown up, but that's L'Oreal,
right?
I mean
that's the power
their platform.
They plugged it into their platform, and oh my goodness, it just exploded. And I think I've talked to a few L'Oreal representatives via LinkedIn, and they said it was, a great purchase and a great deal for them too.
They were very happy.
Everybody was happy. Yeah.
So you're talking to right now, however many folks, they own a $25 to $45 million grossing business, solid EBITDA. Let's assume that it's a mostly healthy business. It's a good, solid business. Help them navigate some of the thought process you think they should be going through.
Well, the thing that I think is number one, which I was too young to know or think about, is what happens next. So I didn't realize that when I'm in the midst of my company or my peers that I'm working with, that, I mean, I'll start with some silly little things. All the IT support I could ever want was right there. Yeah. When I'm sitting at home and I can't get a app to download, now I've got to go stand in line at the Mac store.
Right.
I mean, just little
no built-in Genius bar. That's a pain.
Little things like that. But what is going to occupy one's day? And for me, I had a lot of my accolades and personality and pats on the back and who I was wrapped up into this role.
Pretty normal.
And so
very normal.
When that role went away, and by design, we were out in 3 weeks. We sold 3 weeks later.
Done.
Like move your office.
Yeah.
Which was by design. It was like, ooh, there's a identity hole there. Mm-hmm. And how are we going to fill it? And I've talked to you very seriously about this, Scott. I filled it with behaviors that weren't that great for me.
Yeah.
And I really had to do some soul searching over the past years and have learned a lot. But for any entrepreneur who is seriously thinking about selling, this identity that you've built, especially if you've built it from the ground up, it's interwoven, right? Mm-hmm. With who somebody is. True North is interwoven to who you are, Scott.
Yeah, that's right.
And so if that goes away, the question is,
who am I?
Who am I, and what do I do? And why am I here? And so I would encourage somebody to spend a considerable amount of time with those questions. Mm-hmm. And understand the answer to those questions. And it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to be this guy or that guy. But what I can tell you is I thought, okay, I'm going to play golf every day and I'm going to coach every team on my kids, sports. I'm going to go to dinner. I even had these ideas that I was going to spend, 2 hours a week in the library reading a new book that I hadn't read before. I did do all the coaching, and I loved every minute of that.
How many kids?
I've got 4.
4 kids, yep.
I did play golf every day, and I got down to like a 6 handicap, I think. And then I got sick of it, and I'm like, I'm never going to be that great.
6 is pretty good, though.
It was.
But again, had you got to scratch, I mean,
there's always you're scratch.
Correct. There's always somebody better. There's always somebody worse.
Right. And so the idea of like, I'm going to go live on a beach for the rest of my life is fun for a period of time. Mm-hmm. And then it gets boring and it gets routine. And that hole doesn't get filled with those fantasy activities that I think kind of the world says, sell your company and here's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. It just doesn't work that way. At least it didn't for me.
That's right.
Russell, this is such a powerful conversation. I mentioned this to Scott a couple of months ago, and I was a part of this inspirational luncheon thing held weekly for many, many years. And we would always bring in these Russell Moons, successful. And I was in my 20s. I had a lot of friends in my 20s. There were people from their 20s to their 80s in there, but the bulk were 20s to 50s. And we would just every week kind of parade these very successful people in front, and they would all say exactly what you just said, that money can't buy purpose, essentially. And I said to Scott, all I can remember is every single one of me included, all my friends, yeah, but I'll be different. I'm willing to take a chance on that. What are you going to say to that person? Russell, I understand that the beach and the golf didn't work and the kids. I'll find purpose. Human nature says, just if I could just have that 50 million, 20 million, how much, 100 million, whatever that number is, why is that not going to work?
Well, it's going to work for about 6 months. The studies that I've been able to put my hands on all kind of talk about this euphoric rise, and most of the research is done around lottery winners. So
Can I pause you right there? Mm-hmm. Hold that thought. So this is important to know. So one of the things Russell and I talked about over the last couple of years as we've met periodically was your interest in potentially coaching entrepreneurs or counseling entrepreneurs through this sort of process. And we can pick up at the end on that, but want our listeners to know that there's a genuine interest on Russell's part to sort of help with this conversation. So go back to
love it. Clearly it's on your heart. Yeah.
Go back to the lottery
I find
winner.
the psychology of it quite interesting.
Yeah.
So from what I've been able to read, and there's very limited amounts of studies on this, is there's a euphoric period. And that euphoria is typically exemplified by, okay, and my car was a X car, and now it's a
Y car.
Right. And usually there are a few major purchases from X size house to Y size house,
and multiple probably whatever.
Right. And so there's an ascension, right? And during that ascension period, there is this euphoric feeling.
100%.
But unless the money's unlimited, you plateau, right? And so now your bills are same bills with another zero or two other zeros behind them. And you have the same issues.
And there's no more ascension.
And there's no more ascension. So at that point, there's actually a period of depression. Where it's like, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to make me happy. It was making me happy. Now what's wrong?
Yep.
And the trap that I fell into is, okay, well, I need to go do more
something.
of this, or I need to do
Right.
to make myself happy. And I started getting into private equity investing, which I think is a path that a lot of folks go down. And I could probably do a whole podcast on that. And I've learned a tremendous amount on that. Some of them were great and some of them were terrible. But again, trying to fill that void with things that I thought would make it, right? So I had an amount of money, and yes, did I invest in things that I found interesting, med tech things that will help? Absolutely. But was I also investing to try to make more of that thing, money? Yeah, if I'm being honest, I was.
Yeah.
And so it became this almost the rat in the cage, right?
Vicious cycle.
On the circle. And so I was that guy. I was like, oh no, once I have this, I'm going to be satisfied. I'm going to be great.
And then
I love the idea of the ascension.
Yeah, it's
I'm not
really
sure
good.
I've really ever heard anybody characterize it that way, but it's like to repeat it, when you're on the way up and you're getting a nicer car or a nicer watch or taking nicer trips or whatever the thing is, but at some point, unless you just have unlimited wealth, you do get to a point where you're now living at a higher lifestyle, but there is no next new thing, right? Unless you get another, whatever, 30, 40, $50 million. Instead of 2 houses, you have 4 houses or whatever the thing may be. But once that ascension stops, the boredom sets in. And that's a really interesting way to characterize it.
And I would even argue if you had unlimited money,
there's only so
the
much you can
ascension
do.
starts to plateau.
100%.
Because
it's the numbing effect. It takes more. It's the high effect. Whatever it is, it takes more and more and more. And at some point you realize this is not going to end. I remember
there's an addiction too.
Well, 100%. And I remember years ago, I don't know if the stat is true. I remember in Orange County that they had the highest rate of suicide per capita, because if you're in that weather and you have that money and you're still not happy, well, then what is going to provide true happiness? So that's where I want to pivot here is, how does a business owner, how do I start to focus on purpose and not this myth that when I get X wired, I will be happy?
And to add to that, how do you focus on that purpose in the middle of trying to run a
100%.
business and the chaos of building and growing a business?
Because you wish you had maybe done some of that work prior to the exit. Yes?
For sure.
How do you carve out the
For sure.
time?
Yes.
Well, that is an interesting question, because what I think the answer is it's work within. It's within me. and for me personally, it's with higher power as well. Only I can make myself happy. I can choose what to focus on. I can choose what to think about. I can pick the thing to worry about today, or I can pick the thing to be thankful about today.
That's good.
This worked for me, and maybe I'm a special case, but it has taken a long time. I've put a lot of hours into this. And so you ask the question, how do you do this while running a business? And that's very difficult, because you have to be very intentional about it. What I can tell you is I'm a huge advocate of groups, accountability groups.
Okay. That's good.
Whether that be groups in the recovery community like AA, all the way down to YPO and EO. Groups that help keep an individual accountable to goals that they're trying to do. It's absolutely critical in my mind. And so I suspect that one of the ways to run the business and begin to do this work is through some of these groups that are the YPO, EOs, the Tiger 21s, and things like that.
Some community.
It's community. It's people that,
and maybe even coaching
coaching, people that will give you, ideas that agree, that disagree.
Yeah.
There's a great book I'm reading right now that talks through this. I believe it's Annie Dukes. It's called Thinking in Bets. She was a World Series of Poker champion.
Okay.
And it is absolutely one of the best books I've read in a very long time. Thinking in Bets.
What's one or two takeaways from it?
The idea that perfecting or trying to get, perfection is a bad word, but trying to come up with a process where I am making good decisions. I'm not thinking because I won, my process is good, and because I lost, my process was bad.
Right. Yep.
But it's putting the outcome over to the side.
Yep.
And really thinking through, am I making good decisions? Staying out of echo chambers where I'm making good decision, and I talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, you make...
It's getting reinforced.
Yeah, right. Where you want people with different ideas. You want to examine your successes and say, all right, where could I have done something different, better? Because the argument in the book, and I'm not all the way through it, winning a hand doesn't necessarily mean you played right.
Right.
Yep.
And losing a hand doesn't mean you played wrong.
Yep. The cause and effect.
And so she extrapolates this very, tiny, set of decisions into how do you do this in life? And I think the goal is to come up with a true process that is something that is, reliable, that I am making good decisions. Luck is going to come into play.
Yep.
Things that are out of my control are going to come into play, and there may be bad outcomes in a process that was really well thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
And so I'm finding as I read this book, that is a way that I can continue to feel really good about myself in the face of a bad outcome.
That's good.
Because I'm secure in my process and my belief system and my decision making. And if it, let's say I start a company and I really thought through it and I did all the work and then it didn't work and filed BK, a bad outcome, maybe something out of my control. I just got unlucky. Who knows what? Do I say that was a total failure and now I'm a failure because my company was a failure and I suck and that first one was lucky? And no, if I can rely on my process rather than the outcome, I can really stay healthy within myself.
So one of the things that's interesting about your exit with Skinceuticals was it was so young, right? I mean, so at 37 years old, you've basically are set for life. Right. And so now you've got, hopefully we live a long time, but you live into your 80s or 90s. And so now you got 50 years time to fill. So now what?
Mm-hmm.
Like now, how do you think, you're downstream now 20 years from that event, but now how do you think about the go forward from here?
Well, the immediate go forward is I have a new company that I actually started on the heels of Skinceuticals. I took the antioxidant technology that we were applying to skin and patented it for oral care, for the mouth, for the gums, for healthy gums. And so I'm actually in the process right now of selling that company.
Great.
So we are midstream in process. So I am getting a second chance at asking myself this question again. I know with this particular sale, it won't be like the previous one. It won't be 3 weeks and you're out. I will have commitments a year or 2 or 3 after the sale, which actually dovetails nicely because my youngest is a rising junior. About that time, she'll be off to college. And, within the next 4 years, I think I will be asking myself, okay,
what's next?
What is next? What is going to give me purpose? Is it another startup? Is it making order out of the chaos? Or is it something like what you mentioned? I've been contemplating going back and getting my master's in psychology and focusing on this as my thesis.
Yeah.
So this area is very interesting to me now because I think it's interesting to me because I probably made all the mistakes that could be made. And the person that skates through and does it perfect, they don't know the mistakes, and so there's no teachable moment there.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. And I, exactly. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so, this is part of why we're doing these podcasts is because, we recognize that there's a lot of guys and gals out there that have not sold their businesses yet, who are going to exit at some point. And, how can we help people exit better?
Yep.
We use this statistic a lot of, 75% of all business owners and entrepreneurs profoundly regret, are the words that are used in this study, profoundly regret selling their business 12 to 18 months post-transaction. So, okay, why? Why is that? And there's lots of different reasons, but one of them is certainly that, there's no purpose post-transaction. They go through this dream phase where life's going to be great and I'm going to, be on the beach, or I'm going to get my handicap to 1, or whatever the thing is. And then that kind of wears itself out. And then what? Right. So, part of our goal is to help illuminate this conversation for business owners and entrepreneurs, and whether, however we can be helpful in the process to bring in a coach, to bring in a psychologist, to bring in a program, because to your point, like, it's really hard to sit down and be still and spend time on this when there's a lot of chaos going on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's almost impossible when you're going through a sale process and you're giving presentations and people are in your data room and it's like, oh my goodness, we don't have this in there. And, oh, Scott, you want me to go zen out over here in the corner? I don't know.
Take a half day and, call it a free day or whatever, but go take a half day off and just focus on this stuff in the middle of all this.
Well, this is where that intentionality comes in.
Yeah.
It won't happen unless you're particularly intentional about it.
Yeah.
And my best advice, so you ask, what would you
Absolutely.
What would you say is, when your handicap's a 1 or a 0 and you're sick of the sand and you're in the best shape of your life, then what? Because yes, you can achieve all those things, but then what's after that? And a lot of people go, well, I'll just make it up when I get there. And I would argue that some thoughtfulness around that will save a lot of heartache down the road.
Well, and here's the other side of, another twist on that is that if someone does that work and they really think through ahead of time, what is my purpose, or, how am I going to spend the rest of my life, they may actually come full circle and be like, you know what, I'm actually doing the thing that I need to be doing right now. And they may not exit.
Yeah.
Which could be a great outcome for some people. It's not everybody's answer, but for some.
And I'd love to, because you had just said a few minutes ago, you all think you don't regret selling at that age. You feel like for all the right reasons, you sold at the right time. What would you say, expand and give your I love what Scott said there. I think if they are being intentional, they may start to realize their identity is not completely tied into that business and their greater purpose. That could make them a better decision maker on whether they should exit or not.
Correct. So is the question, what's the rationale for not selling the business?
Well, it's really, I think it's, there's multiple questions here, but one is like, if I got really clear on my purpose, I might find that my business is a platform to allow me to spend more time charitably or give more charitably, or it gives me the flexibility and freedom to do some things that maybe I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And the platform, the business becomes a platform for some of those things.
Sure.
Leadership or, whatever it might, I'm making things up, but I'm just, the idea of getting clear on life purpose, why God put me on this planet, and then figuring out, am I supposed, I'll just use me as an example, like with True North, people say, we've been in business 23 years and, we're approached on a regular basis and people ask the question, when are you going to sell? And I'm like, I'm having the time of my life. Mm-hmm. Like I've, in a way, I've waited 23 years to get the business to where it is today, to be able to do some of the things and serve people the way I've always wanted to. I couldn't do it 20 years ago because we were too small and we didn't have the resources. But today it's like, it's this, this vision that's come to fruition, and it does become a platform, to touch people's lives, to impact people's lives. This very conversation we're having today potentially can have an impact on somebody who listens to it. So that's kind of where I'm sort of poking around.
Well, I would encourage someone who's contemplating selling, as they think about, okay, what gives me purpose? What am I going to do afterwards? To simultaneously, on the other side of the ledger, think about what are the things that are causing you to want to sell. There are probably three big ones. Financial security. Okay. There are multiple answers to that question.
Right.
I mean, equity firms, if you've got a good EBITDA, will be lining up at your door to let you take some chips off the table. Secondly, I don't want to deal with the daily grind. Okay. You could go out and hire a CEO to run the company.
Yep.
There are people problems. Okay, you can hire people to take care of that. Competition's getting stiffer. I'm worried about the market. Those are sources that are outside of your control. And so how much are you going to let sources outside of your control dictate what you do? It's an individual decision on risk.
Yeah.
But I would spend some time going through those types of questions, because to your point, you might be able to find solutions to them and hold on to the business. Maybe it's a smaller percentage of the business. Maybe you've got a partner now.
Different role.
Yeah. But that identity piece would still be there. And if that's an important part, like what you said, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm getting to do what I want to do. My identity is wrapped up right now in True North. I don't want to let that go. So I would imagine that there's some amount of that in every entrepreneur.
Yes. Absolutely.
What's the percentage? That's each person's decision.
That's right.
Well, and I think that's a great point. I think part of why this discussion is so powerful is because entrepreneurs typically stay entrepreneurs. Like a lot of times it's not a one and done. You've now started 2 other companies. We all have friends who've exited, started another company. It's kind of like it's in your DNA to keep going, because that's how you're wired.
That's right. And that's what happened with me. I got bored, right? I think that's part of it. And a subject for another podcast, but we talked about this before. Some of the traits that really helped me as an entrepreneur: fast thinking, being able to decide on a direction with only 50 or 60% of the information, making moves and then course correcting as you go, are the very opposite things for being an investor.
100%.
and I've had to learn this the hard way.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Like, oh, Google's down, sell it. You know, immediate decision like, oh, then it's up, you know, 2 years later, doubled. I'm like, oh, that was not awesome.
Right.
So knowing oneself and knowing these traits of an entrepreneur, I would encourage your audience not to say, and I did this. Oh, I just got this big, huge exit. I just grew this company. I know how to do fill in the blank.
Yeah, right. Everything.
And one of those things was like, oh, I know how to make money. I know how to manage money. It is a totally different set of skills that I do not possess. And I think a lot of people will get into that and try to do it themselves. I did.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's
very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if you were so successful to sell an amazing company at a young age, of course you're smart enough to manage all your money. Russell, this has been incredible. Thank you for, I know, the genuineness, the openness. If you're listening, man, these last 5-7 minutes, what's your purpose? You got a bunch of money in the bank. You're in the best shape. You've been to every Little League game. What are you going to do 12 hours a day for the rest of your life? Thank you for joining us on Decision Points.